Welcome everyone to DGOT Instant Reactions. This might as well be a new freaking series as well since we're doing so many of them. But
No
I'm
kidding.
good with it. I like going to the movies. It's fun. It's a good time. This was a highly anticipated movie. I think. I mean, it's a. I think this one's like breaking records right now. Like it's done really good. So shout out to Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. What 2024, man? What a year! What a time to be alive for me. I'm just talking about me. If you'd have told me at the beginning of this year I'd be excited to see an Alien movie and a Beetlejuice movie, I wouldn't have believed you. I think I'm blowing Brian's mind right here, honestly. Just because I
and
wasn't the
a
biggest. What's up?
and a Ghostbusters movie,
Ghostbusters.
right? You were super excited for that.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that he said the word mind because I didn't know where that sentence was going. But anyway,
Relax,
Anywho, Beetlejuice,
relax.
Beetlejuice. We all had the privilege to see it. I'll just kick us off with my general thoughts. I had high expectations because I thought the trailer looked great, and unlike a lot of other movies, I think the movie lived up to my expectations. I had a great time seeing the movie. Uh, it was fun. It was very Tim Burton esque, which is not a bad thing to me. The crowd
Same.
that I was with in Dolby Digital, like the Dolby Digital, it sounded great. It looked great on the screen. And the crowd I was with, I don't think Brian can relate to this, but my crowd was fantastic. I had several people dressed up as Beetlejuice characters. There were a lot
Wow.
of people, rocking t-shirts. The vibes were immaculate. It was one of those moments where you're like, this is a theater experience. This is one you're going to remember. And I had a great time. I managed to get one of the cups, drank my Coke Zero out of it, ate my popcorns. It was fun. I really like this movie. I had a good time. I'm going to go see it again.
Nice. You want to go
Whoever
ahead,
wants
so
to.
Dustin?
you, this is awkward. Anyway, yeah, I go
I
ahead.
go this way, you go that way.
So I didn't have high expectations for it, but I was excited for it just because I've said it several times when they wait so long to do a sequel, a lot of times the end product is crap. Ghostbusters broke that streak. They kind of proved me wrong in that. So I was like, okay, there's a chance it could be good. And the problem with Ghostbusters, the problem with Beetlejuice is those are two movies that I'm pretty sure I gave both of those movies a 10. That's like one of the rare 10s that I've given out on this on our show. And so obviously I hold those movies in such high regard that I was nervous. Um, while I don't think that this movie is nearly as good as the original, I still enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it. It was like as soon as the opening credits, because we start off with opening credits. It's not like we get a scene and then opening credits. As soon as we start with the opening credits and we get that score, I'm like, oh, like I felt this. I felt the cool waters of the nostalgia flowing over my body. I loved it. Um, it is funny though. Like think about this: you had Ghostbusters, you had Beetlejuice, you had Alien in theaters. What year is this? Like
Right.
what a year for '80s babies.
Right. Right.
But
Right.
I did have a lot of fun with it. There were things I didn't like, but I think I may have like oversold my issues with the movie and undersold how much I did enjoy it.
Okay. Well, I'm actually gonna probably be Switzerland and be Mike Settle on this one because I mean I'm gonna have to not really heavily lean one way or the other if I'm being honest. Like Nico mentioned, I really need another watch because my theater experience was just absolutely awful. Like people talking the whole movie, despite moving three times, being near some of the stankiest onion smelling people I've ever smelled. PSA, wash your fucking asses, please.
Hmm.
And couple that with just having worked all day, picking a 9 p.m. showtime, the movie kind of drug a little bit. It felt long to me. But again, I don't know if that's reality or if that's just because of my situation. I thought it was fun. There was a lot of positives. And I know that's not great review speak, but, I didn't leave it in love with it and having such a good time like I did lately with, like you brought up, Alien Romulus or A Quiet Place prequel. I really had a good time with those movies, and I didn't feel that way with this. But again, how much of it was my watch experience? How much of it was reality? So I guess I'll just have to say my positives and negatives that I can think about and give it another watch.
I will say, speaking of theater experiences, so I went to see a movie last night. I went and saw The Front Room, and or actually no, it was when I went to see Afraid Saturday morning, and it was. I think I watched the 11 o'clock, 11 a.m. showtime of that one. There were people in the theater wearing Beetlejuice costumes and stuff. So there's a lot of buzz around this movie. But speaking of
Yeah.
theater experiences, go listen to the front room instant reaction that we released later or earlier today for my rant on that and theater etiquette. So Brian, I feel you on that. I had a terrible experience in that movie.
Yeah, and I'm sure y'all saw my tweets from I went to go see friend of the show Michael Levy's movie, Fuzz on the Lens production stream. I walked out. Like there's people in front of me, wouldn't stop talking, playing on their phone, just like being completely rude. So like it spoiled. Like they offered to like go in and kick them out, and so I could stay. But I was like, my mood's already ruined. I can't enjoy the movie. I'm just going to leave. So I would definitely recommend giving it another chance when you're not tired and you can actually not be pissed off the whole time. So I get that. But let's jump into our positives
Yeah.
of Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Michael Keaton. This man is what,
Yeah.
73, 74, 73 years old now. Looking at the
Exactly.
Internet Movie Database, the man just oozes riz and charisma. Like he was amazing as Beetlejuice again,
Oh
just as
yeah.
good as he was 30 plus years ago. I thought he stole the show as he should. He's fucking Beetlejuice. He was the man. I thought he had great one liners, great presence on screen. Uh, Monica Bellucci, whew, I thoroughly enjoyed the few moments she was on screen. And shout out to Tim Burton. What a flex. That's your old lady. You know what? You know what? Your character really has no point in this movie, but you're hot and I want to show you off. So get in the damn movie. That's a flex right there. What a guy. I love that. But
That's Rob Zombie flex right there.
except she can actually act. But anywho,
Come on. Okay, okay. You're
I
not
will
gonna
say
say you're not gonna say that based on this movie.
I
You're not
thought she was
her
fine.
role in this.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was fine, but was there anything in this movie like, oh, she's acting her? No, get out of here.
I will say though, like the scene where like Danny DeVito knocks that box over and like her body is
Yes.
put back together. That was one of my favorite scenes. I
It was
really
really cool.
enjoyed that scene. It was a great scene. Like I was really invested. All of the OG cast members who came back, Winona, Catherine O'Hara, like I couldn't help but smile just because there's some nostalgia there. I'm a big Winona fan from Stranger Things. Uh, Mr. Deeds, love Mr. Deeds as well. It's a great fucking movie. Yes, I have seen Mr. Deeds. Catherine O'Hara, Home Alone is like one of the most nostalgic movies of my childhood. I always love her
Yeah.
from that. And we got some of my current day favorites. Jenna Ortega, Tara Carpenter, and she was in the show You. Love her from that. And my man, Willem Dafoe, Thomas Waite. You're fond of his lobster. I liked him in this movie too. I thought the movie was beautiful. It looked beautiful. I love the nods. Like I even love I don't, God forgive me for not knowing the song, the Banana Deo song. I thought that was a good nod at the funeral. I thought that was a good call. I had a good time with the movie, man. I really don't have many complaints. I had a great time with it. It was a great
I know,
experience.
Nico, you remember Winona Ryder from Alien Resurrection. That's the one you really remember her from.
I have not
But
seen it.
so yeah,
how
I'll
awesome was
get
it?
into my. Go ahead.
All I was going to say was how awesome was it to see DeVito's bringing him up because I didn't have him in my notes. But how awesome was it to see DeVito and Keaton back in the same movie, Batman Returns? We did that
Yeah,
review.
That's a good
we
point. That's a
did.
good point. It was cool seeing
MedicaLoveYouOutThere.com.
Danny DeVito as well. Like he's just an OG legend as well.
It was awesome for me because when we first see his character, he's got his back turned to us. As soon as he said
Yeah.
one word, I was like, "Holy shit, that's DeVito!" So that was
Yep.
cool. Also, random thought just came into my mind because Nico, you said he is Beetlejuice, and I was thinking, no, he is Batman. What if we had a
Batman.
crossover? We had Battle Juice. I'm down for it. Anyway,
Battle
um,
juice.
my pros for this movie is my biggest one is that it felt authentic. Watching this movie
Yeah.
after the original would feel seamless because it looks like a classic Burton movie. The humor was
Yeah.
consistent with the first movie, and so many things about it just felt right. The casting was great. The original cast that returned that you mentioned, Nico, is great. Plus Willem Dafoe, Monica Bellucci, even Danny DeVito cameo, all great. I also love the addition of Jenna Ortega as well, but I'm going to revisit that in a little bit. And then my biggest positive is that it quenched my nostalgic thirst. I'm not a huge fan of nostalgia. Like nostalgia doesn't reign supreme over me and cause me to just love things based on their legacies. But this one worked in so many ways, and I really had a fun time with it.
One more
Well,
thing, real quick. Danny Elfman, the music,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
great. It was fantastic. I loved it.
yeah,
Well, hey, Dustin, you brought up it being feeling seamless to the first one, and that's it kind of rolls into one of my positives with Tim Burton, and I don't think you could have accomplished that with any other director but Tim Burton. Whereas Fede Alvarez, I do think things felt very seamless between some of the Alien movies and his newest one. So I just that's just my opinion. I think only Tim Burton could have done what he did.
sure, absolutely.
Oh, is it
We
my
can
turn for
get into your
positives?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
um, Visually, Nico, you brought it up. I really I liked it a lot, and I enjoyed seeing more of the underworld. Something we weren't able to see a whole lot of in the first one. Um, and I liked how the digital effects were kind of mixed with the stop motion effects a
hmm
little bit of the like the sandworms stood out to me because
yeah,
you watch the first one now and you're like, oh god dang, like you they're stop motion. I mean, it's like with RoboCop and their stop motion stuff. Whereas it's, I mean, there's a nostalgic kind of like, oh, okay, that goes with it, and so it was kind of nice to see it. Part of me would have was wondering how they were going to handle that because I actually watched with my daughter Beetlejuice, the first one, like right before we went to the movies, so it was fresh in my mind. Um, but I liked how they handled that. Nico, you brought up Keaton. I wrote the same thing. I wrote he's in his 70s and he has proved the last couple of years that he's still got it when it comes to these characters because he killed Beetlejuice like he was still in his 40s and a few years ago did Batman again in the Flash.
in the
And so
Flash. Yeah,
he's just dominated
I remember
and
that.
proved that in his 70s. Yeah, you remember that. I bet it's probably on your voodoo, right? I also liked, and I think I saw an interview with Michael Keaton where he kind of talked about this. People were worried about they were maybe going to go too kid friendly, but and if you go back and watch the original Beetlejuice, obviously they didn't have PG-13 then, but it would have definitely been 13, especially with the joke that that he pulls out. Um, Great, nice fucking model. That's what he says. Nice fucking model.
Mhm.
But I like how they didn't go too kid friendly with this, and the jokes that they had did honor the original. Again, another reason why I was so thankful Tim Burton did it. You brought up Ortega. She was a nice. She's a nice addition to anything she does. The last thing I will say is I loved the way that Burton handled the Jeffrey Jones being like in real life. He's a pedo. He's in jail, I think, or at least I know he pled no contest to that kind of stuff. But you don't have him in there, but you also, and I think Tim Burton brought it up, like you don't want to like punish his character for something that the actor did. The character didn't do anything wrong, so it was kind of cool the way that they handled that whole situation with him being like just walking around headless. Now maybe they had too much of him in it, like that's maybe a negative that I'll get to, but and I just thought that was really kind of, I don't want to say tasteful, but I like the way they handled that.
another positive I thought of, it was just something that made me laugh was, PG-13, you're only allowed one F word. Well, we got the
Mm-hmm.
F word. So the second time when it comes around, when she walks in, oh, by the way, we didn't say this, but spoilers. So turn this off. Too late.
Too late.
But when they're at he's about to marry Winona Ryder's
Mm.
character, and his wife walks in. He goes, "What the?" And they bleeped
Yeah.
it. That made me laugh
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's Beetlejuice, and like the stuff like that would happen, and so like he can bleep stuff out. He can make weird things happen. So it just worked. I liked it.
Yeah.
I even like the scene like where he's like giving the backstory on like him and I can't remember Monica Bellucci's name in the movie Dolores, like how they met and like he's speaking like in a different language and it's subtitled. Well, I just thought that was a nice touch. Like it was just interesting. Like there's so much razzle dazzle, so much going on. I just had a good time with it, man. I got very few qualms with it. I was when I left, I was very happy with the movie, and I heard other Beetlejuice fans, probably bigger fans of the original than me, talking about like, it wasn't as good as the original. But some people, in their costumes, taking pictures with the big displays. They seemed thrilled. Like it was just a good experience. Some people loved it. Some people thought it was fun, but not as good as the original. You're going to have those people, and I respect it. But I had a good time with it. Y'all want to talk about our negatives now?
Yeah, let's do
Sure.
it.
All right, I'll go first. Like I said, I do have a very few, but me and Dustin have kind of talked about this a little bit when we were doing our other ones, our other reactions. I don't have a problem with Jenna Ortega's character at all, but I will say her storyline, like those moments, probably drug the most and probably felt the most unnecessary. Even though I do like her character, I'm not going to steal Dustin's thunder on another moment. But yeah, like I don't know if it was needed. Like it didn't bother me, but was it needed? Like you can ask that a lot of times. I've kind of felt like the sandworm thing was kind of just inserted just because you got to have a sandworm story. Did it bother me? Not really, but was it a little forced? Maybe, but I really don't have that many complaints. I had a good time with it. Dustin, you want to go next?
Well, I mean, the
I actually
sandworm
thought that,
thing, that's how it was in the first one. I mean, it was barely in there, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I liked it. Like I was when I
yeah.
saw when they landed in the sand and we saw the sand start rumbling, I was like, oh hell yeah, here we go. And so I actually really like that. But to me, my cons, there's only a few, but I thought it was too long. Certain scenes kind of drug a little bit to me. And I don't mean the runtime was too long. I mean certain scenes should have been shortened, more concise, because they just like the at the wedding when he's marrying Lydia, and we get the entire song and dance routine. A
Yeah.
I
little
lo-
too
Yeah.
long.
I
Little
loved
too
it.
long.
I had a
Yeah, it
great
was
time with
good.
it.
It's a little too long though.
I agree.
Jenna Ortega's performance wasn't her best. I
Hmm.
listen. I love adding her to the Beetlejuice family, and she certainly brought in a lot of eyeballs just off her name and her popularity alone.
Mhm.
But it was far from my favorite performance of hers. There were times when she was talking that I felt like she was reading lines, and I don't get that from Jenna Ortega. So, by any other actresses or a lot of other actresses' standards, I think that it was incredible. But I think I expected more from her, and maybe that's how she was directed. I don't know, but that stood out to me, particularly in particular when she's in Buddy's room. What was his name?
Yeah,
Jeremy. When
Hold
she's
up,
in
Dog.
Jeremy's
Jeremy.
room,
Jeremy.
some of the ways that she was delivering the lines just felt like she was reading. And
Hmm.
then the last one that I have is just the multiple storylines kind of bogged it down a little bit to me, especially because they're all told in a pretty elaborate way. But the way the movie tied everything up and ended just felt like a mist. It was a pretty abrupt and unsatisfying conclusion. I feel like spent so much time on Dolores trying to find Beetlejuice. Spent so much time. Well, I guess the Jeremy storyline, that one was fine, but we've got basically three different storylines here. The wedding being the other one, and it's just like two out of three were wrapped up
Yeah.
so quickly without much of a fight that it kind of bothered me a little bit.
Okay, so first thing I'm going to say is that I, I I kind of missed Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin. I'm not going to lie.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by that is like the first movie was about them and it was their story. And Beetlejuice was kind of the villain, but I mean, like to an extent. This one, first of all, it was too long. I felt like it was too long. Again, I need another rewatch. But to your point, I agree with you, Dustin. But it's kind of the opposite of Nico. I think that I needed a little bit more Jenna Ortega's story, and this is going to sound blasphemous, and less Beetlejuice because you made Jeremy this bad guy. Beetlejuice isn't the bad guy anymore, and you had like all of like you said, it was almost seemed like it was bogged down too much with the Beetlejuice story, whereas I almost felt like I needed less of him and less is more, if that makes sense. I mean, it's that's probably not good to review talk because it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me to love Michael Keaton's performance and love Beetlejuice and love this whole thing so much, but yet want less of him. but it almost made it more special than the first one. I don't even, I don't know.
So, real quick on that, to me, because I thought about that too. To me, the way you fix that is you cut out Dolores' storyline altogether because we don't need it, and just have
Whoa,
the focus.
whoa.
I know, Nico,
I
I
mean, I
know, but
agree. I agree with that. I agree with that.
but take a cold shower and hear me out. So I think if you you just expand uh what's her name in the movie? I don't want to keep saying their actresses' names. Astrid. You expand her storyline to where she's in deep shit. She's stuck in the the underworld, and then
Right.
also maybe Rory has tricked Lydia, and she doesn't want to get married to him, and so the only way Beetlejuice will agree to do it is if, okay, marry me and I'll save your daughter and get you out of this wedding. You cut out one, so there's not as many moving parts, and you can really dive deeper into Astrid's storyline. I think that makes it work better to me.
I mean, on paper, talking to you right now, that sounds perfect. That sounds exactly what I
Yeah,
wanted to do. Um, let's see, what was my other one here? That okay, while I did, and I talked about it being, funny how they handled the Charles Dietz situation, but with the shark thing, and I got it. But the dad, Astrid, is it Astrid? Was that her name? I
yeah,
can't.
yeah,
Her dad, that whole thing with the fish, it felt like too much. Like walking around with the fish on the. I don't know. It just to me that
yeah.
just seems cheesy. It didn't rub me too well. And that's all I really had as far as my negatives. Like, and that's kind of a big story negative, I guess. But it's not to say I didn't like it. It was just it felt crowded.
Another positive that I'll get. So one positive to come out of the Dolores storyline though was Bob was great. I love seeing Bob. Like
I love
Bob's
Bob.
so funny, and
He was Bob.
so we got more of him and more of the other shrunken heads. Like that was fine,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's do without it.
But we could have done without it. Exactly. That's exactly
Yeah,
what I was going to say. But was that needed? Yeah.
no.
We need as much Monica Bellucci on screen as possible. So yes, it was needed. We needed more
call,
people
call
getting.
call Nico sometime.
She can suck the soul out of me. Anyway,
Hey yo.
anywho,
What?
what? That's what she did to everybody. She sucked their souls out. She was literally
You're
called a
right.
sucker. She's called a
You're
sucker.
right.
What do
You're right. That's exactly
y'all
what you meant.
y'all made that weird, not me.
I,
Mm.
I will say to as a disclaimer for me, I did, me and Brian, I think it's notorious when we go on trips, do anything in life, we got to pee a lot. I had to go pee whenever Jenna
Thanks,
Ortega first got to brother, was his name Jeremy? I can't remember. I'm looking through the
Jeremy.
Internet
Yeah.
Movie Database. When she got to Jeremy's house, I was thinking, this might be a good time to go pee because I was hurting, boys. So I ran, but I came back in, and as I get back in, that's when they're walking into the, into the walls and all. She's doing the chanting and all that spells and
Oh,
shit.
okay.
So I might have missed a little bit of something. But I mean, hey, when nature calls, you got to go. Y'all got any more
Facts.
thoughts? I really liked Beetle. I'm going to go see this shit again. I had a great time rocking the old Beetlejuice shirt. I even bought a Beetlejuice shirt, boys. That tells you how
Nice.
much I was
It
excited
does.
for it.
It just, I love you, brother. It just blows my mind though that you gave the original a 6.5, but you love this one so much. I don't know,
I
but
think it's because I rewatched the original. I gave it another chance. I see. I like Gina Davis and Baldwin, but like I don't like their story is not as interesting as this one to me. What them walking around with fucking ghosts like through the house, like it don't do anything for me.
would would you rescore it? Would you give it a higher score?
Probably about the same.
Oh, okay. So
I
I'll
had more
just
fun with this one.
that's fair. Uh, you're a big theater guy. Maybe that played into it. Maybe it was your environment. But anyway,
Hey,
my
hey,
final thoughts. I just put I had a lot of fun with it, and it did appease my nostalgia. But maybe it's because I love the original so much. This one just didn't come close. I did enjoy it though. I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd, so 7 out of 10 on the first watch. I definitely recommend going to check it out.
Yeah, I'd say I was around a 7.5. And listen, it'll be live up on our website tomorrow, but we are taking donations for the Justice for Bob campaign. Uh, there's no need to have killed Bob. That's
But yeah,
least
Bob
favorite
did not
kill.
deserve that.
Least favorite kill.
you know what was real as fuck though? As soon as all those workers had a chance to run out and leave, they did. That's so real. You think I'm staying trapped in this office? I'm getting out of here. That was so real.
Yeah, that was funny.
Man, the whole mood, like, where did they shoot this movie? Like, I'm so unprepared. I got the Internet Movie Database pulled up. Man, the town they shot in was beautiful. Like the
Mhm.
whole, I loved everything about the setting. Vermont, I need to go to Vermont, and they got some in the UK. That place, the city was beautiful. The setting, the house, everything just looked like it just tickled like all the fancies I had for it. Like I'm great with it.
Okay. All right, I ain't mad
I
at
know
you.
y'all can't stand me. I like this one more than the original. Ghostbusters 2 more than the original. Like, what the hell's going on with this guy, right?
I know. I'm fine that you like Ghostbusters too. Like
Dude,
I
that
like
movie's
it.
Instead
I
hilarious.
of
like that you like it.
instead of don't fuck with the original, Nico's fuck the original. So
I not most of the time, but sometimes.
yeah.
Y'all got any final thoughts? Or if I were to give it a score, I'm probably like 8.5, 9 range. I really like. It's one of my favorite horror movies of the year. It's up there.
Nice.
All right. Cool.
Frozen
We
Empire
appreciate
2,
y'all
right?
listening.
Support